So let's go ahead and have a simple quick walkthrough through the Xcode environment. So for that, I just start here with creating a new project, and I choose, for now, let's choose a single view application. So before I go through that in detail, just quickly here on the left hand side, you can see that you can develop for multiple different environments when using this Xcode tool. And one of them is, of course, using the iPhone stuff. So you're developing for iOS, iPhone, and also the iPad. Then you have the Watch OS, which is the operating system for the Apple Watch. And then you have the OS X, which is to develop for Mac OS X, which is the operating system of Macintosh computers. And yeah, you can go through here and just see what you can find here, what kind of stuff you can have here. As example, you could develop a Cocoa application, or you could even develop a game, which is for OS X. But we're really just going to cover iOS in this course, and we're going to look into developing applications. So as example, you can have multiple kinds of or types of applications, which you can choose from here. The only difference will be that the setup will be done for you automatically. So some kind of views will already be there. The core, well, the very basic stuff of that application will already be there. And master detail application, we will look into that a little bit deeper in the future. Then you have the page-based application, which is just simply multiple pages that you can swipe over from left to right. Then a single view application, that's the one that we're going to work most of the time with. That's the basic application, which is really good if you want to have full freedom on where to go. Then you have the tabbed application, where you have multiple tabs which you can choose from. And finally, you have the game. So this provides you with a starting point for games. So they're very basic things such as touch events and sprites and so on are already there. We will look into that as well. So we will create a game, or at least one game, I think even 2 or 3 games. And we will for now start with a single view application. So I simply click on next, and here I have to enter some information. First of all, a product name. So that's the name of my first app, and I'm just gonna call it first app. Then you have the organization name. In my case, it's Penutorials, but that's my website, penutorials.com. Then you have the organization identifier, and here it's important to have this structure where you have one word, dot, second word, dot, third word. So that's really important to use this structure, as this is the identifier which creates your bundle identifier, which is penutorials.testapp1.firstapp in my case. And that is something which I can easily change. I can change that to my apps.firstapp. So now the bundle identifier is different. What is important is that this identifier is unique. So you have your very own identifier globally. So it's quite important later on. For now, it's not that important, but it's good if you have something unique here, like not just something like com.apple.apps or something like that. All right, then the next one is the language, and we clearly want to work with Swift. If you prefer Objective-C, you could of course choose Objective-C, but this course is really only Swift. And some very basic Objective-C will be included, but it's more about the classes that were created in Objective-C and have not been completely redefined in Swift. So that's all the Objective-C that we are going to cover. So it's really Swift. Here you can see that there is no versioning in sense of saying Swift 2.0 or Swift 1.2 or something like that. You can only choose Swift, and depending on the version that you have installed, you will have the depending Swift. So in my case, it's Swift 2.0. Then devices, here you can choose whether you would like to develop for the iPhone, for the iPad, or universal. And universal meaning that it's for both the iPhone and the iPad. So we are going to develop most of the stuff for the iPhone, but you can choose universal, and you will just have to change the design a little bit And as you can imagine, the app should look a little bit different on your big iPad screen than on your iPhone. So we will look into one app at least where we will do the transition, so to make the app universal, so it really works perfectly on both screens. But in general, we're going to use iPhone most of the time, and that's what we're going to start with. Then we can choose here between different options. As example, use core data, include unit tests, and include UI tests. You could include these tests if you wanted to, but for now I don't want to use them, so that's all right. Core data is something that we're going to cover later on, and that's here it says whether the application should use the core data framework for storage. So that's as soon as you want to create an application which has storage in it, which stores some kind of information like a database or something, like a little database more or less, then you can use the core data here. And as soon as you're here, you can go on next. And then there you choose the directory where you want to save your project. So you could create a new folder, and it's good to stay in that folder, whatever you use. If you want to open that project later on, it's really good to know where you saved it. So for me, it's in my users, Dennis Panuta, that's my name, and then it's an iOS project. So that's the German word for project. And so then we click on create, and then our application starts. So we have some areas which I want to explain. We have, first of all, on the left hand side, we have the Navigator area. So here we can navigate around within our application. As you can see, our first app has automatically created a couple of files or a bunch of files here, and we're gonna work with them step by step. We're gonna see what they do step by step, but for now it's only important to understand that this is the navigation area where we can navigate between our files or from file to file. Then we have the editor area, which is this whole area in the center where we can actually edit things. And then on the right hand side, we have the utility area where we can see details about specific objects or buttons or things that we are in, and where we can change things as well. But this is, the center is really the area that we're going to work in most. And then we have this button at the bottom here, at the top right here, which adds a console at the bottom. So we will work with the console later on as well. As you can see, you can get rid of all these different areas and you could focus only on the center area. Then you can reactivate them very easily. You could also click this button here, which is to show the assistant editor. There you can have two different screens at the same time, which will be useful as soon as we want to do some editing in our design and at the same time in code. You will see how that works in a bit. And then here in the first app central area, so in the editor area, we have some general information about our application. So as example, if we build this app, then it has a version. So if we want to build it and upload a new version, then we would have to change the version here and change the build name. Then we can see that we have here the deployment information about our target. So we target iOS9. We could choose a different version here as well. We could choose to target older versions of iOS going down to iOS 6. Then we can choose the device that we want to work with, and the interface main storyboard is our main interface. We will see what that means later on as well. Then here we can choose the device orientation. So should our app support multiple orientations? As example, should it support portrait? Should it support upside down? So it means if you turn around, the user turns around his phone, is it still gonna, or is it gonna change the orientation? Or here landscape left and right. So depending on whether the user turns it around by 90 degrees to the right or by 90 degrees to the left. Then we can choose here the status bar, which is the bar at the iPhone on the top. We can choose between default and light. We can hide the status bar if you want to, and we can require the full screen if we want to. So if our application should not show the top bar where you can see the time and you see whether somebody has notifications and so on, then you can turn those things on. In video games it makes sense, but in applications I would really say that it doesn't make sense that much, because it's always good for the user to have this information. So you really have to have a proper reason for the app not to show this stuff. Then here you can choose the icon. For now we only have one, we don't have much choice here. We only have the app icon. We could choose another icon here. We can use, can upload some pictures here or images if we want to use them. And the launch screen, where does the app start? It starts at the launch screen storyboard. We'll see what that means in a bit as well. Then here we could add some stuff. We will do that later on. So for now, I'm not going to look into that. Then the capabilities, here we could add some capabilities, some features such as Apple Pay, in-pay purchase stuff. Then do we want to use maps? Do we want to use push notifications? All these kind of things, we can add them here and use our code accordingly. Then resource tags, we're not going to cover that right now. Then we have some further information about our custom iOS target properties. You can see that here. And for now, I'm not going to cover that as well. So that's too much detailed stuff, which is not really relevant for now, but might become interesting later on. So be prepared. Then we have here build settings, which we will have to change some settings every now and then in order to make specific apps runnable or applicable. Just looking whether there's something that we should cover now. I think that's not. So you can read through all of that, but for now it's not really relevant. It's good to keep the defaults for now. Then the build phases. Here we will get later when we want to use APIs. So that means when we want to use libraries or a bunch of code, let's say, who comes from third-party providers. So as an example, if you want to use Google Maps, then you would have to download the stuff from Google Maps and add it here in this build phases thing. Then build rules, also something that I don't need to cover for now. So there was a lot of stuff that just to give you a short overview here, what's going on. And then on the right-hand side, for now, we have really just generic information about the name of our app, then the path where we can find it, the name of the code project in order to open it, and then you have the format Xcode 3.2 compatible. That means that it can be run on older Xcode versions as well. Then the organization class prefix, I think that's all rather simple. And yeah, I think what else is important or interesting for you to see for now is that, as example, if you go to settings or actually preferences, so Xcode preferences, there's you can check out all the preferences for now, but the fonts and colors is something where you might want to change. So you can see, depending on what you choose here, your code will look very different. So for me, presentation makes sense, as I want you to be able to read the code properly. Otherwise you wouldn't, the screen would be too small probably. So that's the right approach for me. Otherwise, if you want to choose different colors, that's good. Then otherwise, I think that's good for now. We will see loads of other stuff. We will get into much more things regarding regarding Xcode later on, but let's just go ahead with the next video where we will play around with our first app and do some stuff with it. So let's go ahead and watch the next video.